Ever feel like, maybe you're playing checkers and everyone else is playing chess, like you're missing some kind of, I don't know, secret rule book to really understand how people tick?
Ooh, I like that.
Well, today we're diving into a book that might just be that rule book, The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Yes, this one is a classic. A bit Machiavellian for some, maybe, but fascinating nonetheless.
Definitely fascinating.
Yeah.
And okay, maybe a little intimidating at first, right? When I first picked it up, I was like, is this like genius advice, or am I going to turn into some kind of evil mastermind?
Well, and that's the thing about it. You can kind of see it both ways, which makes it so interesting to unpack. It's all about, well, the book calls them laws drawn from history's biggest power players.
Right, so we're talking like kings and queens and generals and all that.
Exactly, but also artists, seducers, anyone who knew how to get what they wanted and make things happen. Greene basically took all their moves and distilled them down.
Into this kind of like blueprint for how power works no matter what century you're in.
You got it. And some of them, well, they make you think. Take Law 1, for example. Never outshine the master.
Ooh, that one's a little counterintuitive, isn't it? You'd think you want to impress your way to the top.
Right. But Greene's saying no, if you outshine your boss, even if you don't mean to, it can backfire. Threatening to them.
It's like that classic thing where someone comes in brand new to a job, bragging about their accomplishments, like, hey, we get it, you're great, but...
But did you get there alone? Exactly. Greene would say, instead of being the star, highlight how your boss helped you shine.
So it's more about like strategic credit giving, making them look good too.
Exactly. You show your competence, but also play to their ego.
So you become indispensable, not a threat. Makes sense.
Right. It's the long game. Now think about Law 6. Court attention at all costs. Especially these days, it's easy to get lost in the noise.
Oh, tell me about it. You practically have to be a marketing team just to, like, get noticed at work, let alone in life in general.
And that's where being strategic comes in. It's not about being the loudest, but making your contributions valuable, visible.
So less about bragging, more about strategic visibility. Gotcha. I'm already starting to see how this can apply, even in everyday situations.
And that's the key. It's not about becoming some, I don't know, scheming Machiavelli caricature, but understanding the rules of the game. Human nature, basically.
Right. Like we said, a rule book.
Yeah.
So you're telling me there's a way to channel my inner Machiavelli, but like for good.
That's what we're going to explore. But I have to admit, even I find some of these laws a tad intense at first glance. Like Law 15, crush your enemy, totally. Yikes, right?
Okay, yeah, that one sounds a tad aggressive even for a power move. How do you even crush your enemy without, well, actually crushing them?
And that's where reframing comes in. This is where Greene gets really interesting.
Okay, convince me. How do we reframe enemy crushing into something, less crushy?
Well, think about it. Your enemy doesn't have to be a literal person. It could be a bad habit you want to break, a limiting belief.
Or like that one coworker who's always negative and sucks the energy out of the room.
There you go. It's about identifying those obstacles, whether they're internal or external, and eliminating them so you can thrive.
So it's about setting boundaries, protecting yourself, and basically making sure you're operating from a place of strength.
Exactly. It's just, a very active way of putting it.
I'm starting to see how we can view these laws through a different lens. It's like all about interpretation, right?
And that's where things get really cool, because when you combine this strategic thinking from the 48 Laws of Power with something like habit building, that's where you unlock a whole new level.
Ooh, habit building. Now you're speaking my language. I love a good system for creating positive change.
Me too. And lucky for us, there are some amazing resources out there.
Right, like Atomic Habits by James Clear, one of my all-time favorites.
Excellent choice. Clear's book is all about those small changes that, over time, create massive results. It's like building a muscle, but for success.
Exactly. So how do we take something like, I don't know, court attention, but make it into a positive habit?
It really is. Small changes, big results. So instead of just like hoping your boss notices you're killing it, you could use Clear's habit stacking idea.
Ooh, right. Attaching a new habit to one you already do. I love that.
So maybe, like, you already check your to-do list every day before you log off. You could add on, send a quick email summarizing my wins for the week.
So it's not bragging, it's just keeping them in the loop.
Subtly reminding them of your value built into your routine.
Okay, I'm into it. So this is what I'm talking about, taking these like kind of intense power moves and making them positive. It's like Machiavellian self-help.
Right. And it doesn't stop there. Remember The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg? He talks about that cue routine reward loop, which is pure gold when we're talking about like influencing behavior.
Okay, refresh my memory on the cue routine reward thing. It's been a minute since I read Duhigg.
So basically, it's how habits form. The cue triggers a behavior, which is the routine, and then you get a reward. So you do it again.
Like my phone buzzes cue, I pick it up and start scrolling, routine, and then bam, dopamine hit from seeing something interesting, reward.
Exactly. Now apply that to, say, Law 3. Conceal your intentions. If you know what cues trigger what behaviors in yourself and others, you can be really strategic.
Oh, hold on. I think I see where you're going with this.
Instead of revealing your end game, you plant those cues so people reach the conclusion you want, but they think it's their own idea.
Okay, now that's some next level stuff right there. It's like instead of being direct, you're kind of architecting the situation.
You got it. You're not controlling them, you're understanding those underlying mechanisms.
It's almost like having this knowledge of how people tick. It's like a superpower.
It's the power of influence for sure. And that brings us to another law that on the surface might raise some eyebrows, Law 3. Discover each man's thumbscrew.
Yeah, that one's a little intense sounding.
It's not as literal as it sounds, thankfully. Basically, Greene's saying everyone has their weakness, their buttons you can push.
Okay, so not actual thumbscrews, but like figuratively speaking, everyone's got something.
Right. Now imagine combining that with Duhigg's habit loop. You observe someone's routines, their reactions, you start to see those thumbscrews. But here's the thing.
And I bet this is where the ethics come in. Knowing how to push someone's buttons is different from actually doing it right.
100%. And this is where Greene can get a little, well, you have to tread carefully. Just because you can influence someone doesn't mean you should.
It's not about being a puppet master, right?
Right. It's about using this knowledge responsibly, ethically, ideally for everyone's benefit.
So it's less about manipulation, more about understanding how to navigate, like, the human side of things and doing it with integrity.
Exactly. And that's what makes this so interesting to talk about because, yeah, the 48 laws can seem kind of ruthless at times, but it also makes you think about your own values, your goals.
It's like it holds up a mirror to human nature in a way, both the good and the, well, let's say strategically ambitious side.
Ooh, I like that. Because it really is a reflection how we use this knowledge ultimately that says more about us than anything.
Which brings us back to, I think, why it's so important to pair Greene's work with these other, like, transformative books. The ones that help us build that self-awareness, the empathy.
Moral compass to handle all this power.
Exactly. So we've talked about Atomic Habits, The Power of Habit. What's another book that you think could, like, add a little bit of heart to our Machiavellian journey? Okay, you got me. Hit me with that book, Rec. What's going to add some, like, goodness to all this power strategizing?
All right, get ready for it. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey.
Ooh, Covey, a classic.
Right.
It's all about, like, being proactive and win-win thinking and all that.
Yes, exactly. It's funny. It's like Greene shows us the chessboard, all about power, but then Covey comes in and he's like, okay, but let's make sure you're playing fair.
So we're not just using our power moves to, like, crush the competition, but to actually build something good.
Exactly. Greene gives us the strategy, but Covey reminds us, like, hey, there's a human side to this, too.
We need that balance, right? Like that saying, with great power
comes great responsibility. Exactly. So, for example, Law 28 in Greene's book is all about interaction with boldness. Be decisive, right? But then think about pairing that with Covey's Habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Ooh. So it's like, yeah, be bold, make the move, but maybe take a second to see where everyone else is coming from first.
You got it. You're not just trying to overpower people. You're trying to find a solution that actually works for everyone involved.
Like adding emotional intelligence to the power plays.
Yes, exactly. And suddenly, you're not just strategic. You're someone people actually want to work with. Someone who can lead, but also, like, listen and collaborate. Powerful combination.
It really is. You know, it's funny. This whole conversation has really changed how I see the word power now. It's not about being ruthless. It's about mastering yourself first. Understanding how people work, sure, but using it to make things better, not just get ahead.
And isn't that a much more, I don't know, inspiring way to think about it? The most powerful people in the end are the ones who empower others, not just themselves.
Right. Totally. So last question. Someone's listening to this. They're intrigued, maybe a little intimidated by the 48 laws, but they want to, unlock that inner Machiavelli, but with a good heart. What's your advice?
I'd say Go for it. Dive into the 48 laws, but do it with open eyes. See the brilliance, but don't forget your own moral compass. And for the love of all that is good, read some Covey too.
Love it. Knowledge is one thing, but using it wisely, ethically, that's what really matters.
Right. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Awesome. Well, everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring these ideas, keep learning, and until next time, remember, with great power comes a really great book list.